Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Miss Camay Show. I'm your host, Miss Camay, and I'm broadcasting live today from, you guessed it, the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. I am so pleased today to be welcoming Maura Joy Lustig to my show. Welcome to the show, Maura. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Camay. It's a pleasure to work with you. I mean, I've been following you and looking at all your material, and yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun today.
Yeah, well, I think the same thing of you. I'm so overwhelmed at what I've read about you. You and I were connected by Lynn McLaughlin, which, I had her on my show a few months ago. You are a transformational mindset coach and artist. You believe that each of us has a special gift within us that deserves to shine. Like, I love that, right? The sparkle and all the glitter that we all have in our own greatness. Yeah. You believe that when we discover what that gift is, that's when we realize what's truly possible for us and that we have the ability to create our best life. And so I love this introduction about you because it's so powerful. And it speaks so intuitively to, each person's individuality and their own greatness, what they were created, and born to do. So how did you become this transformational coach and artist? How did you get to where you're at today without the 12, 14, 15 years of the story, right? Because it definitely has been a journey. This isn't something that happened overnight for you. So how did you get here?
Yeah, and we're always a work in progress. So who knows where I'll be 5 to 10 years from now, all of us for that matter, right? And of course, with the pandemic and stuff, we're all going through many pivots at this time. Yeah. For me, it's certainly been many decades in the making. And my background was in financial services for almost 20 years. And a number of years ago, that was really the first pivot, was when I left financial services, because I'd reached that point where I recognized that I wasn't happy and that I wanted so much more. Like, that song from Peggy Lee, "Is That All There Is?" Uh-huh. Well, I'd hit that wall where it was like, there's more. What's the more? And you mentioned already to everyone that I'm an artist, and that was really where one of the pivots came. Was it's really, let's face it, it's the dark moments in life that turn the light on somewhere else, where finally we let go of our attachment to what we think we should do. We stop shooting on ourselves, and look at what gives us really joy. And when we find the courage to step into the things that we value most, when we identify what our gifts are, and then say, okay, how can I figure out how to monetize that, or how can I, whether the money follows or not. And for me, it was the artwork that led to the change, because I was at a point in financial services, this is back in 2004, where things weren't working the way they had been when I first started. I'd grown tired of the profession. And at the same time, I was starting to get up early in the morning. I was starting to paint every day. Before even going to the office, I was up at 5 a.m. working on art. And gradually, my husband, wonderful man, my soulmate, said, "Maura, we'll figure it out. You're meant to do that, not this." And so I left that career. I took that leap of faith. I sold my book of business. I had a large practice of clients, sold the book of business, and launched my art career. And started selling my paintings, doing art shows and galleries, started traveling, doing art. Pivot, because I'm a transformational mindset coach as well as an artist. So what was the next pivot? It was that I noticed a pattern in who was buying my paintings. And it was like, oh, isn't that interesting? I was intrigued. I mean, it's so important to be curious when you notice things, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like I'm Gretel following the breadcrumbs back to me.
Right.
Yeah. And so I noticed this pattern. So who were these folks that were falling in love with my artwork? Well, they were coaches, they were writers, they were lecturers, they were doctors. They were people who at some level resonated deeply with the transformative healing that I was pouring into my work, because for me it's about expressing the extraordinary in the ordinary,
Sure.
finding the miraculous in the mundane. And so I decided to take a workshop on coaching just so I could figure out how to target my demographic, my market to my niche better.
Right.
And lo and behold, you know that expression of the fish doesn't see the water it swims in. Well, of course, I was a coach all along. That was the part I'd even enjoyed most about financial services, was the relationships, the working with people on things that were most important to them. So
Yeah.
I took a course on coaching, launched fully into the training to become a coactive life coach at the time. I studied through the Coaches Training Institute, went on and did their leadership programs and studied neuroscience and NLP and you name it. And mindfulness and meditation. And then all of those things have now been integrated into my practice and what I do with people today.
You know, it's so interesting when you talk about pivot points. And you shared with us that you got to a point, you know, as a professional where you really realized what it was that you really enjoyed in what you were doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you know, you recognizing your greatness, you're recognizing your assignment, what you really were created to do, what you were passionate about, what you were in love with. And it's almost like the money doesn't matter because you're so in love with what you're doing. I was asked just yesterday by a very close friend of mine, what was a pivot point for me? And she didn't use that terminology, but as I'm reading about you and preparing for our interview today, and I've really been studying your pivot points and the events in your life that triggered pivot points for you. Mm-hmm. And I had a realization that, you know, everybody goes through something in life. There is going to be trauma. You know, it tells us that in the Bible. If we study history, you know, the trouble will come, trauma will come. Mm-hmm. And it really, you know, the outcome is really dictated how we respond to it. Hence your pivot points. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the pivot point is an opportunity for you to turn and go in a different direction. Not necessarily change what you're doing, not necessarily change your platform, not necessarily, you know, change what you're passionate about or what you want to do, but take it in a different direction. Mm-hmm. So the experience that you gained working in corporate, having that book of business, that was valuable experience that mm-hmm. actually helped reveal what you were passionate about, what you That's really right. honestly wanted to do. Yeah. And so there was that pivot point where you had, like in basketball, right? We got to like keep one foot on the ground, like stay planted, stay centered, right. and turn and pivot.
Have you ever heard of that expression, figure out what you're good at and then do it on purpose?
Yes.
And you know, and I love the words of Morris B. West in The Shoes of the Fisherman. Some of the prose there, it goes, it costs so much to be a full human being that there are very few who have the courage or the enlightenment to risk it. And you have to reach out to life with both arms. And so, you know, it's that figure out what you want to do and do it on purpose, but then it's about being willing to step into the fear, not knowing all the answers, and just say yes and do it anyways. And then, you know, learn as you go. It's that being willing to be vulnerable, willing to fail, knowing that, you know, done is so much better than perfect. And yes. when I'm working with my clients, I mean, many of the women that I work with, they've been experiencing a crisis, whether it's in their health, their relationships, or their career, and they're at turning points where they've decided like that you know, that we change when the pain of remaining the same is finally greater than the fear of something new. And right. they're looking for how to take, whether it's their health, maybe they want to lose weight, they want to have more energy, maybe they're sick of the relationship they're in, they want to know how to change. So I work with them on their values, of course, and you can understand how important that is, but most women really don't have a clear idea of what their core values are. And, right. And as a result, they've never learned to prioritize or set boundaries, and they do not have systems in place for getting back on track every time life derails them. And when I work with them, they do.
Yeah. You say courage is action in the direction of one's goals. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Courage is action in the direction of one's goals, despite despite doubts of fear or loss.
That's right.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
I'm thinking of an example of that. Two examples for myself personally. One would be hosting the wellness retreats for women in France, and the other would be the painting workshops in my studio. When it came to the business of hosting a wellness retreat in France, I have attended conferences and retreats all my life. However, I'd never hosted one. And a fellow coach reached out to me and said, Maura, I've been watching you. Would you consider hosting one? And because I'm so clear on my core values and what I want to bring to other women, I was able to say yes, even though I didn't have a clue how to do it. And then figured it out. And now the one this year is even more incredible. And there was that. And the same thing happened. I have painted all my life, but in the past I didn't used to teach art. And then a bunch of women said to me, oh, would you teach us? And over the years, I always said, no, I'm not qualified to teach. I didn't go to, I didn't graduate as a fine art major. And it was like, Maura, for God's sake, surely you can figure out. And you know what? I started launching my inner artist workshops and people are loving them. And just a segue on that about stepping into courage, how I met my husband. It was at a house party. And I was there by myself with a girlfriend, and I see this guy, dancing on the deck with the live band playing and the tiki torches, and he's moving and grooving. And I'm thinking, dang, Maura, how old are you? Surely you have enough courage to ask a man to dance. Well, the rest is history, because they played a slow song, and then I was really in trouble.
I did read that about in your bio about how you met your husband, and definitely got a giggle out of that, because you talk about in your work that you do, becoming a change master, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you shared, in true transparency, some of those pivot points in your life. Your mother died of cancer. You lost your mother. I've lost my mother as well. Mm-hmm. And that was probably the first pivot point I really experienced in my life, is the day that the second, actually, that my mother died. You lost your son, Kyle, to cancer. That was another pivot point in your life. Divorcing the father of your children was another pivot point. Stressful family situations, being a single mom, the pressure of building a different business when you leave corporate, and you're pivoting and doing things different. Yeah. It made you
being adopted. Yeah, all of it. Older parents adopted.
Yeah, correct. And I guess for argument's sake, Maura, everyone's trauma or everyone's life experience is truly their experience. Yeah. And can be pivot points. What might be a pivot point for me might not be a pivot point for you. Mm-hmm. But they're all exceptionally relevant. Mm-hmm. You talk about, these pivot points, and that you have become a change master. It's helped you, writing your Chaos to Clarity course that you offer. You talk about, the secret to overnight success, and all of these experiences in your life have created pivot points for you to do the things that you're doing. So we have an audience question on that topic. One of our audience members wrote in, and she said that she's struggling with overcoming the anxiety and having motivation to pursue her dreams. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about pivot points, although we don't necessarily know, what this woman is going through, but we know that she's struggling. She's got some anxiety, and she needs to overcome pursuing her dreams. Mm-hmm. So what can you say to her about being a change master? What can you say to her about a pivot point in her life? Obviously, she has arrived at a pivot point, because she's, reaching out for some tools and resources that can potentially help her. So what would you say to her?
Sometimes a story is the best way to answer it. 2 stories of where I absolutely learned how to overcome an obstacle, quite different from what I've already told you. When I think in the past, like we're digging now really deep, going back. I had an undiagnosed learning disability. I almost failed grade 2 because I could not learn to read or write. And the teacher identified it, and this is we're talking many years ago. Kids are identified much more these days than they were back then.
Sure.
And so she spoke to my parents, and my father took it upon himself to work with me with a blackboard, flashcards, and in the living room every single night when I was 8 years old. And so I memorized flashcards. I did phonetics and everything else. What happened was an absolute transformation, because I learned coping skills. And that's one of the gifts that I give, is whether it's related to mastering a language, because I ended up going on to major in languages in university, speak 4 different languages, and so on, right? Like this was a transformation. This wasn't just me learning how to read and write.
Sure.
This went from one extreme to another, because what happens is so often people think they're not smart enough. When
Right.
in fact, they are very smart, but they've got some kind of an obstacle, and the obstacle is the way. It is learning how to work through it and embrace it and figure out, not say, oh, I can't do something. It's how can I get around this? How can I do it?
Yeah.
As a financial planner, I used a calculator. I never failed an exam, even though I was never good at math. I was always good with people and their money, though. So this wonderful woman who is reaching out with this question saying, how do I move through it? Well, you need systems. You need to develop the skills to adapt, to be able to get really clear on what's important for you and what the next step needs to be to get you there. And that's why there are people like us that are coaches who have been there, done that, learned how to develop these skills and be able to provide people with a track to run on and then hold them capable so that they can achieve them one step at a time. And when you have that kind of a person mentoring you and cheering you on,
the opportunities are endless, you know?
That's right.
It's
wholehearted coaching. Yeah.
Correct. I have a memory being in, junior high school, being in algebra, my teacher trying to teach me algebra a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend was in advanced algebra, and the way that she was doing her homework, I completely understood. It was simple. It was so easy for me. I mean, what I had been struggling to understand for months, I was able to get in 30 minutes, working with my best friend.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my teacher and her telling me, you can't do your homework that way. I will not accept it. I will fail you. And I couldn't understand that response, because not only was the answer correct, but I was showing my teacher that I was actually advanced in algebra, because I was doing the work that my best friend was doing, and she was in advanced algebra. And that was a huge detriment to my, junior high school education, because of that one particular experience. And like you just said, there are a million ways to do it.
That's
and
right.
And we as a society, we as human beings, we as people, we as professionals, we need to understand, and we need to embrace the concept that we can do it differently. We can do it in a way that we can master it. We can do it in a way that will work, exceptionally well for us and what we're doing, because that's our greatness, and we're walking in our own power.
Yeah. Well, and Camay, think of all the wonderful, very successful entrepreneurs in the world who either dropped out of high school or university because they were like you and me. They were square pegs that didn't fit in a round hole, and they didn't let it hold them back. They simply went around instead of through. And they not only went around, they went higher, they went bigger. So when we're working with a client, when I'm working with one, when I'm doing Convert Chaos to Clarity, I'm truly giving her a roadmap to bypass the obstacles, to overcome, to manage and master her own state, so that she can daily have a way of hitting the reset button to get back on track and move towards her goals.
I love it. There is nothing that, there's nothing that's off the table, right? There's something for everybody, for sure.
That's right.
I know that when you and I first jumped on the phone, you were very excited to connect with me. And we've got a great announcement coming on something that we're doing together that has materialized. But you came to me giving. You came to me with like some suggestions. I think it was on my website. Some suggestions on some of the content of mine that you saw. And of course, you're coming from a place of love. You're coming from a place of transformation. You're coming from a place of, hey, this is really great. Hey, I have this idea. And so, my experience of you is you're coming to the table with open arms. You are ready to give. You are ready to help, support, stand with me, cry with me, pout with me, whatever it is that I need at that moment. And isn't that truly what a transformational coach should be, in your opinion?
It's not just a label. It's who we are. It literally oozes out of one's pores when one is designed for this. One is fulfilling one's destiny. Two of my favorite books are The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz and The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. In fact, I use them as part of my tools and training for help women really start to see themselves the way I see the greatness in them. Because I can identify someone's gifts. I can see their heart. And I can help them. I can do this and I can hold it up and say, see what I see? Let me help you get there. What do you really want? What's getting in the way? And let's eliminate the clutter and let's get on with it.
Yeah. One document that I snagged from all of the research I did on you is The Secret to Overnight Success. It was a PDF. It was a free download. As soon as I connected with you, as soon as I went to your website, I was actually offered the document. And so I've read it, and I've actually had it on my desk, and I keep going back to it, obviously in preparation for our interview. But I keep going back to it because I feel like this is something that every entrepreneur, and I don't want to say man or woman, because entrepreneurs come in all shapes, all sizes, all genders, from everywhere around the world. We've seen a lot of things with our current climate with COVID. We're seeing employers really bullying employees. We're seeing how employers, do not value the life or death of their employees around the country. Big names like Amazon, Tesla. There's just so much is coming out in these last few months in our climate. And so a lot of people, a lot of employees are really starting to recognize, I need to do something different. I need to do something different here because I'm not valued where I'm at. I'm not appreciated. They don't even care if I live or die because there's someone standing in line outside ready to walk in.
And the stress is making so many people unhealthy too. I'm not even talking COVID, just the stress alone and being, isolated and then overwhelmed, and then getting into bad habits with food, and the pounds creeping up on people, and then the self-hatred starts to creep in. It's the mental health effects of being bullied or mistreated in the workplace are just devastating. They're really just devastating. And so as I'm reading your Secret to Overnight Success, it's very simple. You talk about 4 stages in the process. And you say, we seldom see the trial and error, the repetition and correction that leads to success. And, it's easy to go to a job. It's easy to get up and walk into a job that has everything laid out for you, when to start, when to finish, when to take a break, when to go to lunch, when to come back. You follow step 1 through 8, then you do it again, then you come back tomorrow, you do the same thing. That's so easy. That is so easy. And for some people, that is sufficient. For some people, that serves them doing that. But the trial and error, the repetition, like the pivot points that you talk about, right? Taking a pivot, going in a different direction. And like you said in the beginning of our interview, we are always a work in progress. We are going to be a work in progress until the day we stop breathing, because life is about movement, right? That's right.
Movement. So let's kind of go through this a little bit as we wrap up our interview, because I think this is such significant information that so many people can actually really take and consider as they, leave from the interview. You talk about stage 1 being initiation. Stage 2, self-sabotage, which I definitely want to elaborate on that. Stage 3 is trusting the process. And stage 4 is self-actualization. So let's go through these. Take us to step 1, initiation. This is when we're excited, infatuated, the first step towards our dream, the start of something fresh and new. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And for just 1 second, before I do, want to mention where people can find this. It's on my website, maurajoylustig.com. They just have to go look up my name online and they'll find me anyway, social media or on the website, and they can download it from there. And when you mention this process, I mean, it's that story, we see the glory, but we don't know the story, right? Of what goes into something. And I love the term Kaizen. It's a Japanese term, which means it's all about mastery. It's the continual pursuit of self-mastery and excellence. We're never done. It's continual. And so, what happens is when people get to the stage where they're not ready to accept what they've got anymore, or they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then they're ready to pivot, whether they've had change thrust upon them or they just think it's a great idea. But the ones that just think it's a good idea, that aren't motivated enough, then they're at that inception stage where it's all good. It looks like a great idea, and they buy the diet program or they sign up for the gym membership. Let's use the gym membership. That's the best analogy I can think of. It's just an easy one everyone can relate to. And then it's also kind of like they just satisfied the itch by paying for the membership. They're thinking, okay, I did something. Well, the trouble is they actually have to show up at the gym. Not only do they have to show up, but they have to show up every day. I got something on it. They have to show up every day. They have to be consistent with this and persistent. And of course, their muscles are sore and they're often overweight and they're not in great shape. And this is painful work. So they're showing up at the gym and they're self-conscious. So they made the decision. That was the exciting part. And now it's that self-deception, it's self-sabotage. It's the, the little voice saying, what do you think you're doing? You're going to go to the gym? You're going to transform? Yeah, not. You've been doing it wrong for years. You think you're going to be different this time? Everyone has that nasty little negative voice. And actually, it usually hits in the middle of the night when you wake up and you can't sleep.
Right.
It's when all the dark fears hit at the same time, right? That's when that little sabotage hits. So, okay, so that just know though, and it really does help to know that's normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Expect it. The demons will arrive. The minute you state to the world your goal, you're going to get hit with the doubts and the fears. And then, so then it's so important to know that since that's normal, but that you're not allowed to negotiate. Like I don't negotiate with my mouth whether I brush my teeth or not. I know they'll fall out someday if I don't. So it's when you make that kind of a commitment, burn the bridge, burn the boats, all in. What the hell? I'm doing this, come hell or high water, no going back.
Right, and trust the process. Like that's
trusting
part of the process.
That's right. And then ultimately what does happen, if you will just trust the process, and it helps if you have a coach, because that's the other piece of going to the gym, is that, the ones that succeed are the ones that also buy a block of training sessions with a personal trainer, someone to hold them capable and accountable, and be there with them as they go through their exercises and help modify their approach so they get the machines used right. Okay, so we've done this. We've got the inception, the excitement, then the fear coming up and saying, what am I doing? Then the trusting the process. It's not fun, but I'm doing it anyways. And then it's kind of miraculous what does occur is that you reach a point, maybe it's a few weeks in, maybe it's a few months in, doesn't matter, everyone's journey is different, where you suddenly look in the mirror and go, oh my God,
this is paying off. It's paying off.
And the other thing too is that you reach a point where you can't imagine doing what you originally used to do. That's simply not your identity anymore.
Yes.
It's not the person who says, I'm not going to drink anymore. It's the person who says, no, thanks, I don't drink. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah, the mindset. Change the mindset.
You become a different version of yourself.
Yeah, and it's required. It's required through transformation. That is a requirement of that, because you
that is the that's the self-actualization. That's the new identity that does form. It's not a put on. it's an incredible manifestation from the inside out.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. I think this is like right now, this is my favorite piece from you. I love it. I read it all the time. I look at it and I'm like, okay, self-sabotage. Okay, trust the process. Okay, yeah, trust the process. Okay, yeah, self-optimization. Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Just such a great reminder. Maura, we have run out of time. I do want to make an announcement here in our video interview about our webinar that you and I are going to be hosting together. I'm so excited about it. We're putting it together. We're actually going to announce a little bit later on social media today about that. So a lot of great things coming up, but I want people to be able to find you and connect with you. I definitely want people to download this success steps that you're offering and be able to actually connect with you. You do also offer like a complimentary consult with new clients.
Yep. Yeah, I offer 3 things. One is that download for the Secret to Overnight Success. The other is a free preview of my Convert Chaos to Clarity course, as well as a free 30-minute discovery breakthrough session. So it's huge value for anyone that you know, wants to really step forward into their lives, that is ready to make a pivot.
And where can they find you? Where can they find all of this fabulousness at?
Well, first step would be go to maurajoylustig.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, all the different platforms, Maura Joy Lustig. And I know you can see the spelling there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You guys will see.
And thank you, Camay. Thank you very much.
Of course, of course, of course.
I love the research you did. I'm amazed at how much time you put into doing your background work. I love that about you.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, that's the legal professional in me. That's what I do. I got to do it.
Cool.
That's my greatness, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what we're going to give to the women that come to our webinar.
Yes, it's so exciting. It really is exciting. This is a first for me, partnering with another entrepreneur and doing this webinar. I really hope that it grows and materializes into something amazing that turns into a great platform that really makes a difference for many, many, many people. You guys, click that link that's flying across your screen. Subscribe to Maura Joy Lustig. She's got a YouTube channel. You can see the links down below for all her social media platforms, also her website where you can download her PDF, schedule a discovery session with her. You have to talk to her. Even if all you do is connect with her and have a discovery session with her, your life will be transformed going forward. I can promise you that because it's happened for me. Maura, thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate you giving me this content, and I'm very, very excited to announce our webinar next week. I will see you soon on a Zoom call near you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Camay. Bye, everyone.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Have a great day.